Senora Contini, I'm Radu Dobritsoiu from Romania. We changed some emails.
Hi, Radu. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm a former war correspondent. In 2004, I was also embedded with 26th Infantry Battalion, Red Scorpions. In this moment, I write a book about the second battle of Nasiriyah, more specific about about the period between 14 and 17 May 2004.
So the worst period that nobody speaks about.
Yes, we have two books in Italy about this. We have the Scolo book, Gian Luigi Scolo book, yes, and also there were two journalists. They write about this period.
Yeah, people write about without knowing anything, but it's okay.
It was a very difficult period. So
yes, for me it was difficult, and I never spoke about anything because I didn't want to blame my country and my government. I didn't want to disclose a lot of problems for my government, but it was a very big pity for what's happened, especially in May.
Yeah, especially in May.
People speak about April, but nobody speaks about May. But it's okay. I know Scolo is a good friend of mine. He's a good friend.
Yes.
But of course, he knows things from one side, from the side of the Italian battalion, of course. But I was on the other side. I was as a governor with the Iraqi people and with the CPA. So I have the other line that nobody spoke about because I never wrote books.
If you remember, it was a very difficult period for you. On May 14, you was under Mahdi army siege inside Nasiriyah, inside CPA headquarters. What do you remember about that day, first of all, about the insurgents?
Well, I remember everything, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I remember everything because one by one, moment by moment, the insurgent tried and were able to bomb with the mortar, always more precisely the governorate. So the governorate was attacked for 3 days, not one, but for 3 days, day and night, without having any international in the governorate area. And I was bombed for 3.5 days, almost 4 days. Nobody spoke really about this, and not many people were able to join from the CPA to join my government because it was completely full of insurgents, and even the international were not able to join the town. So this continuous bombing in the governorate was something that created a lot of tension, a lot of fear for my people that were there with me. And so my decision was to allow all the people in the government to leave and to leave the governorate premises because the bombs were taking first the barracks where we were sleeping. Then they took the ITC area. Then they started bombing the left premises. Then they started bombing, always calibrating, always making the right bombing in the center of the government.
With more precision.
Yeah, exactly. And probably they were bombing from 3 different sides, And one side was in front of us, in private houses on the other side of the street, which was always more precise. Another side was on, let's say, on the north side of the governorate, and they were adjusting, for days and night. We never had more than 1 hour without bombing, and where we were bombed for maybe 130, 140 mortars a day. I never told this about the May drama, because of course Italy didn't want to hear about the bombing of the governorate, because there was in November the attack in Nasiriyah,
yes,
with the 19 deaths.
Maestrale, yes, I know.
Yeah, so the Ministry of Defense and the Prime Minister himself, Berlusconi, didn't want to hear other problems, and they didn't want to accept that I was bombed again after the Battle of the Bridges, 1 month after. Again, I was attacked by the entire insurgents. But the worst thing is that they were able for 4 days to be in front of the CPA and, let's say, attacking the entire CPA, because they were able to arrive in town in Nasiriyah, especially in the night. And if I don't remember bad, it was 14, 15, 16, 17 of May, these days, the middle of May, and they were able to arrive, Radu, in the night, and they entered an entire building completely free, a free building, which was not a very good building, but it was very big.
A very good position to attack the CPA.
Yeah, it was very good, yes, but also for themselves, for the insurgents, to stay and sleep in the center of the town without showing that they were inside. A very big building, not far from CPA. And so they arrived from Najaf, from the south, from the west, from the Marsha. So they arrived from all different towns, and they established in different groups. They established in 1 day and 1 night without showing that they were arriving, because they were arriving in small groups in the town, and they all went to sleep in this very big building, completely empty building. I don't remember if it was a school or something like that, but it was, let's say, for them, very important and very good to have a position inside the town, close to my government, and from that area they started the bombing for 3 and 4 days. So they were able to, let's say, circulate in town, while the international community was not able to enter, because they could attack them in case they would have entered. So this was also an important point that happened.
It was very difficult because they don't wear uniforms, they mixed with the local population. It was very difficult to attack these insurgents because they are inside of the civil population, and also they occupy some sectors, hospitals. I have the information that
from my side, what I did in these 3 days, I didn't want to leave the governorate. I promised to myself that I would have stayed till the end, and I decided, on the contrary, to ask to my staff, first my civilian staff present with me, to leave and to go to the Camp Mitica. And then, one by one, I asked them to leave, of course, covered by some tank of the international community, Carabinieri and others. I asked them to come and pick them up to go to save themselves because the situation was bad and worse every moment.
It was a hell situation in that night, Signora Contini. You were governor of Dhi Qar province and also the main position
main position. And I had to remain there. I couldn't leave because otherwise the government would have stepped down. So my idea was first to take out the civilians first. Then the day after, of the bombing, I decided to take out the Filipinos that were covering
bodyguards,
the Filipino were the external perimeter covering. So I asked the Filipinos to go also in the international camp, in the Camp Mythica, and then the Babylonia, and then I asked the
Italian Special Forces,
the Italian battalion also to leave, many of them, so that I remain with my private bodyguards, which were CRG, the British CRG.
Yes.
And I remained with them and with my deputy. I remained alone.
Only with your deputy and with your contractors, bodyguards, British ones. In night between 14 and 15 May, we have two operations on behalf of Ariete Brigade. First, to confuse the insurgents, a Romanian detachment with 70 soldiers and 10 armored vehicles marched to Scorpions Bridge, the last bridge of Nasiriyah in Al-Fadliya district, if you remember.
Yes.
Red Scorpions, I talk about Red Scorpions. Red Scorpions engaged the fight 2 times with insurgents, and they maintained the bridge until the end of the second mission, the main mission, your evacuation by the Italian troops. What do you remember about this mission, the Romanian one?
The Romanian did a fantastic job for me because they were able to destroy completely the insurgency in that moment. And so, for me, they were something that for me, even not in the center with me, close to me, they were very important for distracting the insurgents. Because if the insurgents were busy with the Romanian on the other side, for me it was good because I had less insurgents close to me. And I knew that they were doing a very good job. And so for me it was very important that the Romanians were together with us, supporting us. And it was very important to have them busy with the Romanians, so they were not able to stay with me all the time. Even if there were really many, from Najaf were hundreds of people. But it was very important because I felt that I was not alone.
In that time, we talk about around 500 to 600 insurgents in Nasiriyah? Yes, you can speak because they completely make the full, this more than 500 even, this important empty building, and there were for sure more than 500 people, more. At the moment, I think middle of May, they arrived up to 800 people. In coordination with Red Scorpions, 5 FCC Italian vehicles arrived to CPA headquarters in Nasiriyah to evacuate the governor of CPA, Barabara Contini, and few civilians, also journalists. They were also evacuated one day before?
Yes, first the journalists, then the civilians, but I never left the CPA.
Like a vessel captain, you leave the CPA headquarters in the last one. So, how do you remember that mission?
Well, it was very tough to ask them to come to Chiarini, to Dalzini, to come and pick up the civilians because we were under attack. So we had to decide which moment was the best, and I was in continuous contact with the General Dalzini. In May there was Dalzini, not Chiarini anymore. So Dalzini was very nice and agreed to have this 3-4 car to come and pick up first the journalists, which I didn't want there, in fact, but they were interested, of course, very much. So I asked them first to leave. So first were the journalists, then I asked the civilian, as I said, the civilians working with the CPA, so with the international community, to leave. And third, I asked the Filipino and some other Italians to leave. And I remained alone. I left middle of May for 48 hours because I had to go and speak to Baghdad, to Ambassador Bremer, about what was happening.
We remember they are the last days of CPA.
Yes, of course I remember very well, like yesterday, 30th of June.
Yes.
30th of June.
So
I left as the last one, like Ambassador Bremer, like the other 17 colleagues, Governor.
Senora Contini, can we talk about a real battle in that period, in the middle of May, between 14 and also 17 May 2004? A real battle, not only few contacts with insurgents.
Yeah, well, I think it was the worst moment of my life there, unfortunately, because I believed the battle was continuous and the mortars were, as I told you, so many hundreds in those 3 days.
Without RPG, I think. Only mortars without RPG.
No, also RPG from the north. From the north RPG and the mortars in front. So we had both, and the fear was for my staff, for my people. The tension was terrible, and we couldn't sleep for days. It was an incredible adrenaline period, a terrible week, for sure the worst week of my life. But I was afraid, particular for the civilians that I had in the governorate, locals, civilians, and also international civilians. So the moment for every mortar and every RPG was attacking my office, my premises, the place where I was living. It was something that it will always remain in my mind. If you imagine that you have a continuous attack through 3-4 days, and they probably nothing is remaining of the governorate, because you will imagine that in a few hours they will manage to bomb everything in the governorate, and they were, as I told you before, they were making an incredible precision hour after hour. Of course, at the end, what remains with you is the fact that for sure you are still alive. You saved a lot of lives, asking them to leave. But what is terrible is also the civilians of the RPG and the mortar going through us and through the behind the hospital. There was the hospital behind the governorate, and there were so many people killed, so many injured, hundreds of people. And even if I was attacked, I used to go to the hospital, and I saw a lot of civilians, Iraqi civilians, injured on every floor, and I could see blood everywhere. This is something that it will always remain in my mind. It was an exciting, terrible, exciting moments of my life, but and I was alone. I felt very much alone, because I knew that the international couldn't support me so much. At the end of these 4 days, terrible days, the Americans decided to support the governorate, because otherwise I think I wouldn't be here today. And they decided to bomb and to attack from the sky with the airplane.
AC-130, yes.
Yes. On the fourth day, or fourth or fifth day, they decided to bomb the areas where the insurgents were stuck for 3-4 days. So they could manage to see where they were, where the bombs were, where they were organized, and they were attacking me all the time. So at the end, I had the chance to be saved by the American planes, and I don't think if they wouldn't have come, I don't think I would have come out easily, because when I went to Baghdad for 48 hours to speak to Ambassador Bremer, he asked me how was the situation, if I could manage. But the problem is that the international community was not coming, of course, because the insurgents completely surrounded the town, so they couldn't come in anymore after that period. No, so it was a very hard decision to ask the American to support with the aerial coverage. But we had to do it. We had to do it because otherwise we could not answer today to this. No, and I think May, which was a tremendous battle in May, I think it was not enough said. I mean, not enough written about this. I never said anything bad about my Italian battalion, my Italian troops. I never wanted to create problem to fall down my government. I didn't want to create problem to the Minister of Defense, but I was very, very, very upset with them. I was very upset because nobody understood what I was passing through, because they were always thinking about November and the Carabinieri attack, because then there was the Bridges war, and so May was completely distracted from all these other important events, you know. So, and then it was only me. In May, it was not an attack of the Italian troops. It was not the attack of the bridges, of the Battle of the Bridges. It was only me who was there alone with the locals and the governor, completely surrounded by insurgents. I felt very lonely. I felt very bad. I felt very upset that the international community didn't have enough courage to come and clear the town. I know that they were everywhere, the insurgents, but they were everywhere because nobody was able to close the town from outside. Because if the town would have been controlled by the troops, the insurgents couldn't come in, couldn't have the possibility to come in. On the contrary, it was a desert for them, so they were able to enter in every moment in May. So for this I was very upset. And I was upset for years, to tell you the truth, because I think that this was not something that was spread out, was kept silent purposely.
And finally, Senora Contini, a few words about the Romanians, because Ariete Brigade use our infantry battalion because we come in Iraq with very good armored vehicles. In that moment, you have only Centauro, I think.
Yeah,
and,
Centauro.
Yes. Very good armored, but the Romanians come with BTRs, a very strong one.
Yeah,
and
very strong.
They was very useful because BTRs can come close to city, and it was a good moment for Red Scorpions to show the value of the Romanian army.
Yes, it's true. I think for the job that we have done, we have seen together with the Romanian, I have a fantastic remember. I have a very good thought with the Romanian and with the courage that they had. And they were always, I must say, they were always ready to intervene. They were always ready to support. They were always ready to be in place where they were asked to. So an incredible support from the Romanian. The Scorpions were also very well prepared, not only with the armored vehicle, but psychologically the people that was there. I think they accomplished in a very favorable way their mission. I had a fantastic remembrance of the Romanian colleagues, of the Romanian troops, because they did a wonderful job, and they have to be proud, and the people of Romania need to be proud of this.